Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. All right, so today we are going to mainly focus on Zscaler's partnership with ServiceNow. And one of the things that the internet now that we have realized is that the internet is now the new corporate network, and IT operations teams can now observe all your networks, rely on them, improve productivity, etc. And what comes with that is we are looking at accelerating our MTTR through precise issue detection, root cause analysis, etc., and then expand and support the digital workforce quickly and confidently. That's the main theme that we are focusing on with our partnership with ServiceNow. Now, Zscaler has mainly 4 integrated and comprehensive solutions. So the first one, we all know it as Zscaler Internet Access. This is one of our first products, the most widely spread product. This mainly focuses on cyber protection, data protection, basically making your internet access secure for your SaaS application. We also have a Zscaler Private Access, which allows you to remotely access your private applications, data centers without the need of a VPN, and it uses our Zero Trust Exchange as well. And then, last but not least, we also have a Zscaler for workloads. So all your workloads communication across your hybrid clouds, identity-based workload segmentation, everything is taken care by the Zscaler for workloads application. Now, one of the new breeds of products that we have released in the last couple of years is the Zscaler Digital Experience product. Now, what this does is we are in the business of securing your access to the internet. However, with ZDX, we are able to provide you performance and availability experience across your users, applications, different locations, and then allow you to identify and resolve devices and network issues. And we will see this as we move forward in the presentation. Now, the Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange is a cloud-native platform, and that acts like a kind of a switchboard. So it verifies your identity and the context. It applies the controls to ensure that you're not carrying any threats or leaking any sensitive data, and then enforces policies to determine whether to connect you to the destination resource or not. And as part of this Zero Trust Exchange, ZDX is the only solution that provides a unified way of performance from the device through the network up to the application, and up to your, like, if it is a private application, then we also go look into your data center based applications as well. And with that, we also focus on providing you with root cause analysis that exposes any offenders impacting your user experience. Now, as we know today, and what we have seen in the past couple of years, a majority of organizations have adopted a digital-first business strategy. And to support this transformation, CIOs have welcomed cloud applications and SaaS applications. Incidentally, any organization with more than 250 users use more than 100 SaaS applications, and that stat was just staggering for me. And this workloads migration to the cloud, from what we have seen by 2024, we see that the enterprise will probably be spending $8 out of the $10 for IT hosting going towards the cloud. So as apps and data disperse to the cloud, teams have added additional performance monitoring telemetry to their arsenal, so they get visibility across all their assets and on also the application that sit in the cloud. And in the meantime, the workplace, as we know, has also changed. With hybrid workplace gaining broad acceptance, employees rely on their home Wi-Fi networks, their local ISPs, and this is basically to access their SaaS applications directly, and of course their cloud and private applications as well that you are hosting. And with that in place, they are bypassing all of the security controls that you may have put in painstakingly in that one physical location over the years. That just changed instantly overnight. Now, this new workplace dynamic is here to stay. It is putting a lot of pressure on your network operations team, your service desk team, and of course your security teams as well. It's just a headache for now for them, all three of these players today. Now, they see greater than 35% increase in their support ticket volumes and a rise of more than about almost 30% in service cost per ticket. It's because the information that they are looking for is simply not available to them at any given point in time. So making matters worse, your network operations and service desk teams today have point solutions that leave them unprepared. So they may have solutions in place for monitoring your devices, your network, your application, but they're all disparate, right? And that leaves blind spots caused by the user's devices or the network or the application. Even if they have been able to monitor all of these things, what happens today is whenever an issue occurs, they have to manually correlate data across all these different applications. Now, yes, you can automate this by using APIs integrated in a third-party application, but still you are looking at information from different solutions, triaging, looking at that solution, and then making a decision as to where the problem is. Now, this lack of end-to-end visibility in your digital experience forces your teams into firefighting problems after they have been reported. So nobody is monitoring anything proactively, right? When something happens is when we all basically come and react towards that particular situation. Now, the other thing is you may have solutions that are monitoring your devices, network, and applications, right? And all of these is possible by something that you install or an agent that is sitting over there that is constantly keeping an eye on all these things. With that comes a tedious maintenance jobs to update these agents, making sure that they are all on the latest version, they are all compatible with your network or devices, etc. And that's just one more hassle for your IT team to manage. And last but not least, every single application, including ours, we do have an alerting capability. And what we have seen in the past is, we are not either very good at setting up alerts, or we want to make sure that we have visibility into everything and we create multiple alerts. What that causes is an alert fatigue, because now you're getting alerts from these different kinds of applications all at once, and you have no idea which one to focus on because you do not have the ability to correlate these two alerts to see if they are the same or they are two different things. Now, Zscaler gives you a visibility to need to ensure your digital experience for all your users within the office, homes, and also those people who are on the move, right? So by securely monitoring your business's SaaS applications, your private applications, your data centers, etc., right from within your end users' devices, gives you the complete visibility as to how a user experiences connectivity to these applications. Now, ZDX is able to present a user experience insight across your organization. You can even check an individual user as to how they are experiencing performance to any of these applications. And along with that, we provide you an end-to-end view of the performance availability across your entire application delivery chain. Now, also with regards to working from home and the hybrid nature of things, we today rely on different applications like either Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or even WebEx. And we have partnered with all three of these vendors to use their APIs to bring in telemetry data into ZDX. And what we do is using the machine learning capability that we have built from the ground up, we are able to accurately expose root cause by looking at the information from past experiences, ensuring that IT addresses the core issues causing poor experience and not just a symptom. So we are able to bubble up things to the user in near real time to say where they are having a problem and what kind of problem they are having. So when you have ZDX, every portal does have the ability to run these machine learning capabilities from the portal itself. So we use machine learning to accurately expose the root cause by looking at information for a given user, what kind of context the user has. So what kind of an ISP provider they are using, what kind of application they are using, are there other users in the same area or a geography? Are they using similar ISP providers or the same ISP provider? and of course, application. Based on all this information that we get, we are able to identify with almost 99.5% accuracy as to what is the problem that the user is facing. And this is really, really helpful to our service desk personas, because now instead of going through all the data that you have collected to identify where the problem lies, you can simply click a button to get this particular root cause instantly within seconds to tell the user, I know what the problem is and this is how you can resolve it, or escalate it to the level 2 support with the relevant information that they will require to go resolve that particular problem. Now, one of the use cases that we talk about, so when you get ZDX when you have ZDX portal, let's consider a scenario where your network operations team is monitoring all your SaaS applications, your private applications, which are basically critical for your office environment. Now here, right on the dashboard, you will basically see a global view of how your apps are performing across all your users. Now here you can see that while Workday and Box are performing well, looks like I have a green bar for both of these applications. My score is also very good, 97 out of 100. Those looks good. But when you look at OneDrive, I'm noticing that there's some areas of concern for me over here. Now, looking at the map, I can clearly see that in India, there are a couple of locations over here that are having a very high problem over here where the users are experiencing major problem. You can drill down onto that particular location, identify the users who are impacted by this particular outage, and then basically go look at it and see where the problem lies. So in this case over here, I was able to see that there is, I was able to narrow it down to a network, very high network latency between an ISP provider called PSNL and the Redmond, Washington servers for Microsoft Office. So that's where I have very high latency over here. So the network team was able to look at this, and this is actually an actual example. They were able to look at this information, raise a ticket with Microsoft in order to solve this problem for them at their end. Now, here is another example. This one was basically a Zoom outage that we detected in September 2022. Now, we at ZDX, at Zscaler also use ZDX, so we believe in drinking our own champagne. And we do monitor some of the business critical apps that we have in place in our organization. So while we were looking at our dashboard, we noticed that Zoom was having a significant problem, and it just showed up red for every single geography that we had. Now, I looked at all the other applications. They all seemed to be fine. SharePoint was doing great. ServiceNow was doing great. And then I was able to drill down into Zoom and see that while Zoom was doing well until a certain time, it suddenly dropped to almost a 0 score, which basically triggered me to see that something is up with Zoom. I was able to further drill down or zoom into it and see that the Zoom outage started at around 7:55 a.m. There was a significant drop in everything. It probably lasted about 20 minutes while the services were able to recover by about 8:25. So about 30 minutes of downtime is what everybody experienced. I was able to go pick a few users who were online at that time and see that on the page, on the web probes, we were able to see a 502 response that we were getting from Zoom. So basically, there was just literally no activity. Our server response time also was not available. Further analyzing, instead of going through every single thing, we basically said, okay, let's just analyze the score as to what's going on. We hit the analyze button. It ran the machine learning capability in the background. And once the results came back, we were able to see that it looks like there was a bad performance across Zoom globally, and not just it was impacting us. Later on, we also looked at our network path, and it looked like the network path was showing the end user that they were able to reach their destination. It was something up with their web performance itself. And after a while, when Zoom was able to resolve that particular issue, they updated this on their status page. So they basically reported at 8:17, whereas we were able to detect the outage right at 7:55 a.m. when it started. So that was basically the power of ZDX having installed within your organization. Now, to make things more proactive, yes, our platform also provides the ability to send out alerts and notifications. Now, when it comes to metrics, we allow you to set up alerts at almost a very granular level. So you can look at response times or server response time, DNS, if your availability is good or not. When it comes to network, you can look for packet loss, latency, and hop count. And of course, we also monitor the health of your devices. So you can set up alerts to identify if there are people or a group of people who are having high CPU or memory consumption and things like that. One of the main aspects of our alerting is the ability to throttle these alerts. So you can throttle the alerts in the sense that you don't want to receive an alert when one user is having a problem or there's one impacted device in the entire geography. You can throttle these alerts by saying that at least a minimum of 10 users are impacted in a given geography. So that way you are reacting to something that is impacting a lot of users instead of that one single user. And of course, we can send out notifications by email or webhooks. And webhooks is what we use to integrate with ServiceNow today. We also have a brand new kind of alert that we released very recently called dynamic alerts. And what this does is it basically monitors a specific metric. Now, we know that people are working from different locations. Their latencies to a particular server is not going to be the same as everybody else. Things change. Depending on the proximity to the server that you're connecting to, you may have a better or a worse ZDX score. So what we have done now is instead of giving hardcore thresholds, you can set up a alert based on the sensitivity of the drop of the ZDX alert. So this way, you don't have to worry about setting up thresholds or setting up multiple alerts for different geographies. You can simply say that if my score deviates low, medium, or high sensitivity to the current baseline, only then send me an alert. So this eliminates a lot of other issues that you may have by getting false positive alerts on your platform. Now, for our Zscaler digital experience and ServiceNow use cases, we do have the ability to send out webhooks to ServiceNow today into your ITSM as an incident or your ITOM as an event. We do have the ZDX application available in the ServiceNow marketplace. And once you install it, you will be able to set up webhooks that send out events or incidents immediately to ServiceNow itself. And to show that capability, I will pass on to William, who can go through a short demo. William?
Sure. So let me share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Here. Hope everybody can see my screen there. So yeah, so I'll go very briefly here on what we currently have integration-wise with ServiceNow when it comes to dedicated applications. So just to get started here, at the very first thing, if you go into the ServiceNow store, you're in search for Zscaler, you're going to find 2 different applications that we currently provide. One is the event management event, and just to mention a few seconds ago, that basically sends the actual events from ZDX into the ITOM solution. Okay, so there are more details within the actual application here. The one I'll be focusing today on this demo is the Zscaler digital experience, which is also a webhook API integration, but this is the ITSM based only integration. So right here, as you can see, a very traditional summary with what the application does and some screenshots. So feel free to visit and take a look at it and send us any questions regarding that. So from a ZDX perspective, right? So if we search here into I'm in my ServiceNow instance, and if I search for Zscaler, where once I install the app, I now have the Zscaler digital experience application right here. So there are several things here. We provided a guided setup as well, where you can basically configure the application, the integration itself, configure API keys, usernames required, and things like that, right? So it's very interactive that way. And also a way to actually contact our support team. So very traditional guided setup and help portal design as well that we provided here. But for this demo, what I will focus on here is on the ServiceNow incident. So it's a table we create where we accumulate all the incidents or aggregate all the incidents that are being created by the ZDX platform itself. So based on the API webhook calls that are sent to ServiceNow with the JSON payloads, those are sent here and automatically parsed by the Zscaler digital experience application, and the incidents are automatically created. So if I filter by one of the incidents here to share details of how those incidents look like, so filtering by one of these incidents, I can go in here, and then very traditional way of actually looking at the incident. So look from a tier one help desk analyst's perspective. Most of the time, organizations that work with Zscaler, they don't want a tier one help desk analyst to log in into the ZDX portal itself. They want them to keep on using ServiceNow as the single pane of glass to analyze and investigate, or do that initial investigation of incidents affecting the end user's experience. So any alerts generated by ZDX are basically assigned, obviously, an alert ID. And there are, inside the description field, we actually provide a variety of different types of information, such as which locations, departments, number of operating systems or devices that have been affected by that particular alert. So as Vanda mentioned, a specific alert, a specific event that happened at Zoom, that would automatically trigger an alert incident in Zscaler, and ZDX would trigger basically an incident inside ServiceNow that would allow the help desk analyst to start an investigation, or at least an escalation as an escalation point. But as you can see, we can look here that the rule name that was created on the Zscaler side is basically called Oceania. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, and basically it reaches a certain threshold that essentially triggered this alert. So at the very bottom here, obviously, this other fields, I'll skip those because those are very traditional for ServiceNow applications itself in terms of the notes and the related records and things like that. But the most interesting part on this screen here is the deep tracing. Deep tracing is a native capability inside the ZDX itself. So think historically how we use it to perform troubleshoot with the user when the user contacted us saying that the internet was slow or they couldn't access a specific application. We typically would be on the phone with the user, asking them to run commands such as tracert or trace route or ping. And most users, the first question would be, what is that? Because they barely could even type the command themselves. But at a nutshell here, what deep tracing does is to allow the tier one analyst, or any analyst for that matter, to perform more of a remote troubleshooting / diagnostic of the end user's endpoint itself. So let's assume that this particular user is experiencing performance issues with their desktop or to access a specific application. So the first thing that an analyst can do is to basically click here in deep tracing, and obviously there is the incident name here, and I can actually choose how long do I want that deep tracing to run. So what deep tracing will, just for additional context here, what that will do is to run specific probes on the endpoint or from the endpoint to the actual application itself. So it's going to collect metrics such as CPU, memory, Wi-Fi signal, internet performance, information, things along those lines. So it's going to collect a variety of different types of information, but without you having to actually log into the end user's endpoint itself. So I can choose here how long I want to run this deep tracing for. So if I choose here 5 minutes, I can then choose which user do I want to actually run this deep tracing for, right? So I think the name here is incorrect. So I'm basically filtering here by this particular user in this case. And automatically here, what's going to happen is that ZDX, the ServiceNow application actually is performing API calls back into ZDX to basically map which endpoints are associated with this particular user here in this situation. I can now choose like what type of probe or tracing do I want to run? Do I want to run a local probe on the endpoint where I can collect device metrics? Or do I want to actually run an deep tracing specific to certain applications? So let's assume here that this user is having problems with Salesforce. So ZDX has several different applications that it currently supports. So I'm not going to run this one here, but I just wanted to see here that the application typically will be listed here in this case. So it takes a little bit of time to come up. But at a nutshell, it would show here, hey, run a deep tracing for including Salesforce. And I can basically say what type of probe do I want to run? Is it a web probe only where I'm going to basically be fetching the pages itself and calculating how long is it taking for that page to be fetched? Or do I want to also run, and we can pick here and basically say, you can see here, this is just basically how long is it taking for me to fetch the page itself and how long is it taking to respond back. But I can also actually collect the metrics that say, give me all the metrics from the endpoint itself all the way to the actual application. So in this case here, it's going to give me everything related to the application and the endpoint overall. At the very last here, what you can optionally do is to establish, okay, I just want to actually grab information if the packet loss supersedes a specific percentage or the latency is higher than or lower than, right? So again, this is an optional field. So most of the time, what an analysts will do, they want everything. They don't want only specific packet loss percentage because they sometimes just don't know what that actually entails for the most part. But once I actually do this, I can click and save. That will save my deep tracing here. It takes a few seconds to pop up here that it's saving, and then it's going to trigger an API call to ZDX to say, hey, proceed with the probe. It's with the probe, right? So that's saved now, and then on my list of deep tracing here, and that actually lists the history of all the potential deep traces ran in this particular incident right here. So in a second here, it's going to load. And here I go. There's a probe created right here. And if I go now, I have two choices. If I have access to the actual ZDX portal as administrator, or read-only administrator access, I can either click here on the deep link, and once the deep tracing is actually done, it's going to show all the data in here, what it's collected. There's nothing right now because it didn't finish running yet. But just for sake of this demo to expedite things, if I go back into the ZDX administrator portal, and this is basically all the maps that Vandam showed earlier, and those are all the applications that are currently being monitored up here. I can actually go under administration and deep tracing, and you can see that that deep tracing that I triggered with this incident name is actually now here. So, and you can see that it's actually monitoring for a particular application. Obviously, 5 minutes is not enough, mostly depending on the situation, unless it's a very active incident that is going on. So we may end up not having anything at the end of this 5 minutes. And obviously, I'm not going to make you guys wait 5 minutes to have the result here. But let's pick an incident here where the deep tracing was concluded to see what actually it would show you at the end of the end of the probe. So I'll pick any incident here. I just want to show you guys the end result of how the actual deep tracing would look like. So if I go in here, for example, and pick like device and application. So those are two probes as I showed you earlier. And if I click on the little eye icon right here, it's actually gonna give me some context. For example, here, it's not showing a lot here. Let me pick another one. I guess to have a, here we go. So this is a different user, but it's a bot and it's a box application, but the end result would be similar in terms of what the visibility it's giving you, but it's showing you here how long it's taking for the page to be fetched and how long is it taking for the server to respond, how long is it taking for a DNS resolution to come back, right? So availability, there's a lot of information as you can see here. So again, these are things that the vendor showed earlier on the slides, but basically the cloud path from the endpoint all the way to the application, where there are potential latency issues, for example, across the internet path. But it also shows you here like the actual end-to-end path from the whole endpoint. It doesn't matter where the user is. He can be at home. He can be on the road at an airport, as long as they are connected to Zscaler with the Zscaler client connector agent and sending traffic through Zscaler, we will be monitoring that user. So, but as you can see here in a lot of details, from this user endpoint to the Wi-Fi hotspot where they are connected, there's 173 milliseconds of time response time. And you can expand this and see hop-to-hop path of how actually this user may be experiencing any issues here, right? All the way to the end, passing through the Zscaler data centers. And then you can expand even further and see all the way to the end where the actual application is hosted. So for those that are more command line junkies like me, so you can actually see those, like the traditional trace routes and additional information, IP address related and hop direction and a lot of information, a more command line view type. And finally here at the bottom, you would be able to see device events itself. So if there is a device event related to the Zscaler client connector event, or a network related event, or software based events as well. So there's a lot of information and visibility, which will give you indication of where the potential root cause of the problem is, and what measures potentially you can take, given depending on your playbook, measures you can take to actually solve the problem or potentially escalate to the responsible teams as well. So obviously, the question that always comes up is like, okay, these are some very cool dashboards and things like that, but why in the world are you not putting all this in here? And that's where I pass the button back to Vandan. That will give you guys some insight on where we're heading with this integration.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, William. I will reshare my screen. And I hope I share the right screen this time. You're good, right?
Yeah,
all right. All right. So what William showed was the existing integration that we have today. And we are not stopping there. We are doing more integrations or enhancements to what we have built so far. So one of the first things that you will start seeing in the upcoming months is a deeper integration using our API. So our webhooks are kept lightweight for a purpose so that we don't send you way too much information and slow things down. We want to keep it as nimble as possible. But the important information is always available in the webhook. Now, with the APIs available now, one of the things that we are doing is any metadata information that is available in the webhook, we will use that to pull in the relevant information to bring it into ServiceNow itself. So here you can see the alert webhook that was being sent to you is now enhanced to basically include much more descriptive data, in the sense you can see what departments have been impacted, what are the major geolocations that were impacted by this, and also if you have Zscaler location set up, you'll be able to see that as well. And last but not least, you will also see another tab called impacted users, where you can go in and see the list of all users who were impacted by this particular alert that you had set up. Now, the other thing that we are doing is there is always users who will create a ticket. Remember the use case scenario where you want to monitor for groups of people impacted, but there's what happens when an individual user is being impacted. Now, if they are creating a ticket in ServiceNow, in this example, I have Chris Curtis saying that, hey, he's having some problem with OneDrive. We will be able to identify that the user is Chris Curtis. And again, by using APIs, we are able to pull in the information for Chris Curtis's devices. So here in this case, I can see the user has 2 devices. All the applications that are being monitored from his device and the relevant score for each device. And I can see that OneDrive is having a problem. Now with this, we are also going to introduce a new kind of action that you can take in ServiceNow, is to basically click on the analyze score. That will run the machine learning algorithm in the background, get you the relevant information that you need, as you saw in the previous example, and provide that information right here within ServiceNow. So your support staff will have enough information to play with to ensure what the issue is. They're communicating well with the customers, and these are happening within seconds. And of course, if they can't resolve something, they can always escalate it to the next level. Now, last but not least, there is always a scenario where you may want to get more information. Now, one of the latest features that we have rolled out recently is we are calling it snapshots. But what that does is it provides you the ability to build a URL that you can share with colleagues or even outside your organization. And with that, what will happen is you can create links to provide contextual information. You can obfuscate private data if you want to. So in case you're sharing it outside your organization, or you don't want the level 1 support to know more details about, or the more private details about the user, you can choose to do that as well. And of course, you can set an expiry date for these links. So after 2 days or 3 days or 30 days, these links will expire. So, and one of the most important aspects of these snapshots is that when you click on these, if you do not have access to ZDX portal, you will still be able to see the information. It'll bypass the login, but the information is going to be a read-only information. So you can go through all the metrics that we have captured, see where the problem is, and then communicate with the user. So if you want to learn more about our Zscaler integration, stay tuned on the ZDX market. The app is constantly being updated as we roll out new features. There is also a video available on the Zscaler resources page. And you can also, of course, sign up for a demo on zscaler.com and using this particular link. With that, I turn it on towards you. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And let me know your feedback.
Yep, real quick, Vandit, I'm going to launch our poll to see if we have anyone who'd like to get a follow-up. Folks who are still on the call, please indicate if you'd like to get a personal message from Zscaler after this webinar, and say get a personalized demo or some help with the integration. We did have one question come in the chat from Mukul. Do these incident related lists specific to this integration have any role-based visibility, or are they open to anyone with access to the incident?
So at the moment, the incidents are directly basically sent from the webhook. So once the webhook is created, it just flows into ServiceNow. Now, we don't control any kind of RBAC on ServiceNow site. And William, you can correct me if I'm wrong over here.
No, not sure I understood fully the question there.
Yeah, I think what they're looking for is a related list, the incident list specific to this integration have role-based visibility or open to anyone access to the incident.
So whoever has access to the ServiceNow instance, right? Unless you're doing like access control inside ServiceNow itself, they will potentially have access to the actual incident itself. Now, the deep link I showed earlier, that will depend if the person clicking on the deep link has access to the ZDX instance side, right? So on our side, we have a lot of access control, role-based access controls where you can give only read-only access only to analysts, for example, if you want. So they can't perform any configurations in ZDX, but they can still visualize reports and the metrics and things like that. So to your question, it will depend on if you're controlling access or visibility access inside ServiceNow itself. But from our standpoint on the application natively, there's no way to control that.
You, William.
All right. Any other questions from the webinar attendees? All right. Well, thank you so much for the detailed deep dive. We really appreciate the Zscaler team coming on and sharing this with us today. The integration is obviously still evolving and getting even better. So we hope that you follow up on this content. Go to the ServiceNow store, store.servicenow.com, type in Zscaler, and you will see all the offerings that Divya Vandit and their teams have worked on over time. And with that,